but it is also very challenging and very technical as we move on to our penultimate race of the day, the senior girls. So this is year 11, 12 and 13. Very quick to get into their starting positions. You can see the bright blue vests of Guildford, who have done so well, not just in previous years in this competition, but today in particular, taking the titles in the junior girls and intermediate girls as well. A few final shakeouts there, shaking their legs, shaking the hands, a few just patting themselves. It's not too cold. The conditions today, I can say it wrapped up and nice and warm, but it's not too cold out there, and I think once these athletes get moving, these are ideal conditions like we've mentioned a lot of the time, and I'm sure when we get into those bitter cold January, early February races, they'll be grateful for days and conditions like these. Another clean start. We haven't seen anything too scrappy across the races. I think the way that it's stretched out, a very wide pen, and although they're forced down because of the camber into this sort of echelon shape as they come down through and past that hedge there, they're not really forced into any uncomfortable positions, the athletes, and like we mentioned earlier, they are allowed and given the opportunity to ease into this course in these races. This course for the senior girls, 3,150 metres, so a fair bit shorter than we've just seen for the intermediate boys, so it is a very quick course for these girls.
Yeah, definitely, and a lot of these girls, I'm sure 3,000 metre track races at the senior level, they've tried that, so almost a track race for them. And as we saw at the, just to mention it again, the National Cross Relays in Mansfield, 3,000 metres is a very difficult distance to run, but as you said, everyone away safely, no argy-bargy, which you often get in the older races, where some people, it's their last year in the competition, they've got to go up with a bang. So sometimes you see a bit more wrestling in there.
Yeah, you make a very good point. When we get up to these age groups, there are a lot of athletes who are bowing out after these races as they look to futures ahead at university, further education, and leaving their secondary schools. A Guildford mix, Guildford best up in the mix. Sophie Lomas, quick to the front. You can see the bright blue of the Guildford High School vest that we've come to recognise quite a lot from being in a front three position, like we can see up there. She's wearing number 7 is Sophie Lomas. Jemima Ridley up and in the mix as well, you can see there, wearing bib number 163. Slightly more stretched out at this stage than we were in the inter-boys, I think partly due to the fact that this is a much shorter course.
Yeah, I think so. I think these athletes know that this is 3,000 metres is just over 10 minutes of running really, so I think they know it's only 10 minutes, I can afford to go a bit harder. If I blow up after 7 or 8 minutes, I'll probably be alright. So I think they've got a bit more, they've got less to lose by going out harder, and I think we're seeing that here, or maybe it just speaks to the talent of these athletes, because there's some very, very good athletes in this field.
Yeah, and Jemima Ridley, maybe one of the athletes you didn't expect to find herself so far at the front already. Runs for Windsor, Sowetan and Hounslow in club competitions. 21st at English schools last season. She's currently leading the way. Like we said, Guildford High School up in the mix as well. They've done so well in the team competition, the team side of this, which is of course where the cup is rewarded. Although the individual performance is important as well, especially personal pride for these athletes. They'll be fighting for that as well as pushing for their club. So a front 5 and then a trailing 3. As they go and take this hairpin bend for the first time, and they'll be able to see the lay of the land for the athletes behind them, but it is fairly spread, fairly grouped at the moment. Still early stages.
do enjoy these aerial angles. You get to see almost all the athletes in the field. You can pick up the different styles. I think I've seen a mini Elish McColgan style in there with one of the taller girls. It's good to see all the different running styles, which you start to develop at this age. You do really get your own natural touch to it almost of how you run, and you see it at the highest levels, at the lowest levels. People run differently, you always see it, but it's good to see in this competition so many different styles out there.
Yeah, and there'll be different athletes who have different strengths in various parts of this course. Some might prefer the sort of more steady inclines and declines. Others might be quite happy taking on those short, sharp efforts. As we see our leading three there. One athlete just off the back. But these are the four currently in contention as we approach the 5-minute mark. And there we see our early leader once again, Jemima Ridley. Similar place to where Jake Mayberg attacked. She's opened up a gap there to the athletes behind her. Holly Waff in there as well, of Whitby Bay.
You can hear the firmness of the ground.
You can.
Through the headphones. You can hear the thumping of the feet. That just shows how good these conditions are for these athletes.
And you can see the athlete in the lead, Jemima Ridley. She is digging deep here. Maddie Hughes behind her. Amy Waitman as well. It is Jemima Ridley who has opened up a gap here. This is the first shot we've really had of this long stretch of hill. The athletes before, in the races before, not taking that whole stretch of the hill, and they've had to dig deep. And Jemima looked like she was digging deep earlier, but she looks very, very comfortable there, and she's gliding, she's looking to the side of her. She's opened up a fairly sizable gap here to the athlete behind, who is Maddie Hughes of Dr. Challender's High School. There's still opportunities for some chopping and changing of positions in this race, particularly in second and third, and going back down the top 10, which is really where the positions count for these team places, these overall places, which athletes who aren't used to racing maybe, or coming off the back of a track season, might have to get their head around again, because you know, when you're racing an individual races, our leader just takes a little bit of a stumble there. You can see the footing starting to change and become a little bit more slippery. But even when things get tough towards the end of these races, that's when you have to dig very, very deep, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. And I'm just looking at the way Jemima's looking over her shoulder a few times. I'm not certain I think that she's expecting to be further down. So credit to her for getting in this position as we see her heading towards this final corner, I believe.
Well, she's not hugely proven in these kinds of positions over the cross country. This is a brilliant run for the youngster. Like we said, 21st at English schools last season, but she is leading the way and doing so in a very confident way. Even with the looks back, I think she's opened up such a gap in that downhill segment and the slightly more technical parts of this course, that if she has a little bit of belief, extra belief in herself here, she could do something really, really special, and that gap's not closing. And whether she expects to be in this position or not, she takes another look back there. You know, she knows if she keeps pushing now, the gap she's opened up, this could be a very, very important win for her. Senior girls, it's an important time for athletes' development to have these kinds of wins where it gives them an extra belief in themselves, and hopefully, looking forward, keeps them in the sport. This is such a key developmental time for young athletes who we see far too often leave the sport once they leave school. But if you can go out on a high and go into, whether it's second year of school, of secondary school and sixth form, or into maybe a university athletics career like you've pursued yourself, these are key wins, these are key moments to perform and show yourself, and Jemima Ridley is doing just that at the moment.
Most definitely, and dare I say it, should she hold on, this would be a day she'd remember for the rest of her life. Surely this is an English schools competition, this is a national competition, and she looks pretty on for a win here. She's got a commanding lead. It wouldn't be too risky to say that she could potentially win this one.
Well, look at her. There's no one around her as she takes that downhill again. Slightly different form. You know, we spoke about form earlier and the way Jake Mabur really tropped his stride coming down that long decline before the sharp uphill. She's really opened up her stride and she's taking it and bounding her way down. And this is where I'd say this is where she'd think about chopping her stride. She's done so slightly, but the way she attacks that uphill, head down, arms driving, that's brilliant form. And she knows that she's on the brink of a brilliant performance here. Well, this is already a brilliant performance, but a brilliant win even. And she's got her head down and she's driving now. And there's only a few more sections for her to conquer before it will be her arms stretched coming over the line.
Most definitely. And we mentioned Scottish athlete Eilish McColgan. Her style almost reminds me of Andy Butchard with the shoulders out, low arm carriage. And you can really see it working for her here. It's a very good course for that kind of running. We've seen Butchard have great success with it, and here's another example of it.
She's opened up her arms, like you say, she's pushed her shoulders back, she's got her chest up, and she's maximising the oxygen capability. Her head just drops slightly there, but this is a particularly difficult segment of the course, that bend, and then another slight incline into a few twists and turns before she really gets onto the home straight. But again, opened up her stride, her head's up, she takes the occasional glance backwards, maybe in disbelief, but she's showing brilliant form, and this is a brilliant run.
This is where the coach can really work with her and build that confidence, as you mentioned, and just work with her now. Maybe eliminate a few of these little head turns and that, and she could be a really top athlete at this level, especially, as you mentioned, potentially having another year, potentially going off into higher education or whatever else she may choose to do. This is a really good place to start that journey.
So just over 250 metres to go for Jemima Ridley.
Still in fourth place.
St William Bolesis Grammar School is who she's representing today with her club vest, with her school vest even. Her club vest is Windsor, Slough, Eton and Hounslow. She takes one last time around that loop and then finds her way down that gradual decline for one last time. She'll take the sharper turn here to her left, and she will be within 100 metres to go.
She's going to join that long list of top athletes and winners, champions from Windsor, Slough, Eton and Hounslow. Of course, Sermo Farah, I believe, was at that club, so another champion to their list.
Well, and she is charging towards the line now. Look at Jemima Ridley go. That form that we've seen her maintain so well throughout, pushing all the way to the line, and that is such a dominant win over the athletes behind. A huge smile on her face.
I don't think she believes it. Her face as she crossed the line, it was a picture. I don't think she quite believed that, which is great to see some of the rest of the athletes just coming through now. What a performance from Jemima. Really great running from all these athletes in this inter-girls field. The marshals give them absolutely no time to recover after the race, straight out the back of the pen. But that's what you come to expect with cross country. The marshals are very unforgiving. If you stop for a few seconds in that pen, you're kicked out the back. Ellen's smiling and laughing at me here. She knows it as well.
I know those feelings far too. I remember when I used to compete a lot, I used to be found regularly under a marshal's table, and someone would be calling over St John's ambulance, and my mum would be like, "Nope, leave her. Just leave her to lie there. She'll come out soon." And then I'd get dragged into a car. But again, it's all about giving it your all, and these young athletes are certainly doing that today. They're giving it all for the individual performances, but also for their schools they're representing as well.
Good to see these athletes, the top three here, just communicating with each other. They all look over the moon. What a way to end